Is evil Santa coming to a toy store near you? Well, California's Attorney General wants holiday shoppers to report stores that do not have gender-neutral toy options.
California passed a law back in January requiring major retailers to maintain gender-neutral toy aisles. Stores who fail to comply will be slapped with a $250 penalty for the first violation and up to $500 for subsequent infractions.
California Assemblymember Evan Lowe, who introduced the bill, said it will, quote, help children express themselves freely and without bias. We need to let kids be kids.
So is this a naughty or nice move? Depends on who you ask. Consumers took to X to sound off. One user saying, quote, unhinged. California Attorney General Rob Bonta is forcing California department stores to have a, quote, gender-neutral toys section. Bonta is taking the woke war on Christmas to the next level.
Another user said, in California, you can steal toys from stores in plain daylight, but they must be in a gender-neutral section. Make it make sense. Okay, initial question for me, what is a gender-neutral toy?
Okay, I've looked this up. This includes radical things like puzzles that can help foster social skills and cooperative play, puppets that can help kids communicate more easily and express their feelings, and board games that can help children work on complex tasks and solve problems. So part of what's going on here, I feel like this is a wing of the Democratic Party that is struggling to win on policy or elections nationally. Now, I know that Assembly member in California, Evan Lowe, worked with him on a number of bipartisan things with my organization Future Caucus, which works with young elected officials. So he's a great guy. I'm not going to be trashing him. But
I'll do it for you.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. But I will say that why are we calling it gender-neutral toys to begin with? I mean, these are normal things that we all grew up with, like puzzles and puppets. And I think the other thing here is why mandate that it needs to be in stores? These are products that have been successfully sold to kids for many, many years, long before we had ever heard what a gender-neutral toy is. And I don't think they need to be mandated. I think by mandating it and putting in place these penalties, it just sets a tone and a message that is counterproductive for the Democratic Party. Now, in the state of California, you do have supermajorities of Democrats in the state legislature, as well as controlling virtually every major statewide position. So you can often get away with things like this. But this is why you need to have diverse opinions represented in state legislatures to kind of push back on this and say, yeah, we want, if there's a market for puzzles, they're going to exist and companies are going to produce that. They don't need to be mandated into gender-neutral toys.
It's just bizarre. And is a Barbie puzzle not gender-neutral and a Tonka truck puzzle is for boys? The whole idea of even saying that the toys that children choose to use have any reflection on their gender is, I think, part of the problem. And when you look at some of the progressive activist groups that advocate on behalf of transgender youth medical care, for example, like the ones that are arguing in front of the Supreme Court this week, they make the claim often that one of the early signs of a child being transgender is playing with toys that are marketed towards the opposite sex. And it really is an erasure, one, of children who might be homosexual. It is an erasure of people who just don't conform to normal ideas of what gender are. And I think is kind of harmful to put this idea in kids' heads that they're not normal, or they might even have been born in the wrong body if they don't play with the right toy. And with this assemblyman saying, let kids be kids, yeah, exactly, but that's not what you're doing with this bill. You're actually doing the opposite of that by unnecessarily politicizing choices about what toys kids want to play with. And I think you're exactly right. The idea that a store needs to be compelled to sell puzzles or blocks or whatever else is obviously absurd.
Right, and how do you define exactly gender-neutral toy? And like the enforcement of this, I think, is very questionable. I have friends who, I don't have kids yet, but I have friends who do, who vote consistently for Democrats. And they are very big on making sure that they're careful about the toys that their kids are playing with. Just to your point about, the style of toys that kids at a formative age are playing with might have an impact on how they identify in terms of gender. And so my friends, it's interesting, they vote Democratic, but have kind of a conservative view when it comes to the toys that their kids are playing with. And it's completely understandable. From a policy standpoint, I always like to distinguish between personal and policy, because personally, you can have that view. In terms of policy, let people do what they want to do with their kids. There might be some parents who have the opposite opinion. Yeah, I would like to expose my kids, my male kids, to more feminine toys and vice versa. They're welcome to do that as well. The point is to give people the freedom, and that's a great thing in this country, to do that. So I think the bigger picture here that we're going to be looking at over the next few years is Gavin Newsom will be running for president in 2028. And so you're going to see him doing a lot of positioning over the next couple years as he finishes up his term as governor in California. And the question is, and this is part of the problem with our primary system right now, is you have to go as far left as you can to try and win the primary, and then suddenly reinvent yourself within a month to appeal to a general election audience. And that comes across as disingenuous for a lot of people. Now, I'm sure Gavin Newsom will have no problem kind of navigating those waters. He seems to navigate things quite well politically, but at the same time, he's going to be doing more things like this over the next few years to position himself nationally. And the problem is, I've seen this in Wisconsin, where our Governor Scott Walker, a Republican, ran for president. You try and do things for a national audience, and it doesn't work for you in your state audience, and your approval rating goes down, and he's going to face that problem.
Yeah, I think that's true, and he's already been trying to. He's vetoed a few progressive bills, but then apparently signed this gender-neutral bill. So it's not exactly clear what tack he really is taking going into 2028, because he's kind of moved both ways. He's trying to be a little bit of a shapeshifter, but just based on the fact that one of the most influential ads from the Trump campaign was the they-them ad against Kamala Harris this past election, it seems like the Democratic Party would do well to move away from this kind of hyper-focus on gender, especially when it comes to children. A lot of parents, when you poll them, are not interested in this kind of gender ideology that the left likes to talk about. And it suggests to me that they haven't really learned that much from this past election in terms of what cultural issues are popping for Americans and how Americans react to them.
What I'm looking for in the Democratic Party right now are people who are being self-reflective. They are asking the question, what am I missing? Mm-hmm. From the most enlightened Democrats I've spoken to, they're asking that question right now. Even those who I would describe as living in an echo chamber, in a coastal echo chamber, the more enlightened ones are saying, what am I missing right now? And for people who are engaging in some of these kind of left-wing woke politics and not seeing the writing on the wall of where our country culturally is right now, if you want to win national elections, that is, they're going to be losing. And right now we have this DNC chair race happening over the next few months. The direction of the Democratic Party for the next 4 years is being decided really over the next few months. And let's see which vision of the Democratic Party emerges. Is it more like the one that we're seeing from people like Ro Khanna, who are very more, I would say, more independent-minded, or is it more in the Gavin Newsom direction, which is complicated, as you referenced? The people who are saying that Democrats did nothing wrong in this past election cycle or over the last few years, be very wary of those people, please. The people who are instead saying, hey, we need to listen and reach out to and talk to people who we haven't talked to before, and talk to people who we disagree with, including people across the spectrum, including the Obama-Trump voters, for example, in Wisconsin, who voted Obama twice and have now switched to Trump. Let's have those conversations. Let's pay more attention to those leaders.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. More Rising after this.